Here's Kelly Loeffler at a debate.
Given all the police violence we've seen against African Americans, consider this.
This is the moderator asking Loeffler a question.
Courtney Owens of Atlanta is worried about her son, her father, and her husband, all African Americans. She fears for their lives daily. You've called the Black Lives...
While this question is being asked, she's got this goofy grin on her face like, I knew this was going to come up. I knew this was going to come up. Essentially, you know, how are you not a racist? What are you doing to combat racism? What are you going to do to stop racism? You got to be proactive at this shit. So what are you doing to stop racism, Kelly Loeffler?
Black Lives Matter movement fascist. You've alienated members of your own basketball team by talking about that stance, or taking that stance, rather. Is that still your view tonight after seeing and hearing how it hits home with so many people personally? And what conversation would you sit down and have with Courtney Owens?
Well, the life of every African American is important, and there is no place for racism in this country. But there are organizations whose number one goal is to defund the police, and we know that that hurts minority communities more than anyone, and we have to stand with our men and women of law enforcement, and I will always do that.
So you just heard what she says. She believes in the thin blue line. As soon as you put a badge on and a uniform, you can criminalize anybody and everybody, and Loeffler will defend you. As long as you got a badge and a gun and a uniform, doesn't matter what crime you commit, Loeffler's on your... That's a fascist. That's a literal fascist. Ironic that she would call Black Lives Matters, you know, Black Lives Matter a fascist when she's a fascist. She also owns WNBA team, so CEO. They got to be authoritarian to some respect. She's an oligarch plutocrat who's in our government. We got oligarchical plutocrats in our government. Her husband owns ICE. He's worth $500 million because he owns the New York Stock Exchange. He owns the stock market. One man owns the stock market, and that man is married to this, you know, skeleton psychopath.
You know, that's a distraction from the fact that my opponent does not stand with police officers. He's endorsed by organizations whose number one goal is to defund the police. He's called police officers gangsters, thugs, bullies, a threat to our children. He's called for our prisons to be opened up and emptied out. He's called for the abolishment of the cash bail system. Look, he doesn't care about safety and security in any community, and I'm fighting to make sure that we have the resources to keep our communities safe and our police departments well-funded and well-trained.
We need security, of course. That's one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs: food, water, clothing, housing. Security, yeah, that's like the 5 basic elements that all humans need security. I agree with that, but you heard how she just went on and on and on about how the police are wonderful and great and can do no wrong, and she stands behind them. What was she saying right before that?
Make sure that we have the resources to keep our communities safe and our police
Oh, about how they're dangerous. The police are dangerous. The police are dangerous, and we do need to defund the police. They need to be accountable. They're not going after the criminals, and at the very best and at the very worst are the criminals themselves. We got to have police reform. Here in Castilla County, I've never seen a police officer around here. They don't patrol. They don't do shit. And if you tell them that you witnessed a crime, they just shrug their shoulders. They don't give a shit around here. So why would you give money to basically a violent organization that isn't there to stop crime? Why would you do that? That makes no sense.
Organizations whose number one goal is to defund the police. He's called police officers gangsters, thugs, bullies, a threat to our children. He's called for our prisons to be opened up and emptied out. He's called for the abolishment of the cash bail system.
Sounds like a fucking awesome guy. Okay, so Kelly Loeffler is a right-wing, terrible person, voted 100% time with Donald Trump. She saw nothing wrong with Donald Trump at all, not his anti-fascist views, not his love for the Confederacy or the love for the Southern strategy, Nazis, and the KKK. None of it, right? Saw nothing wrong with, hey, everything you did, Donald, was 100%. So if you believe that Donald Trump, who's not going to be the president, needs his balls cradled, well, then Kelly Loeffler would be the perfect person to do that job. If you want an independent person that's going to fight for the people of Georgia, Kelly Loeffler is not it. She's a rich, oligarchical plutocrat. She don't know about the regular people. What, is she a farmer? A bunch of farmers are going to vote for this guy? This goddamn skeleton? Just the good old boys. You ever watch the Dukes of Hazzard, right? Just the good old boys. Never meaning no harm. Beats all you ever saw. Been in trouble with the law since the day they was born. Breaking the curve. Someday the mountain might get 'em, but the law never will. Making the days if they're waiting no hell. That's just a little bit more than the law. Dukes of Hazzards were just a bunch of moonshiners, right? But watch Dukes of Hazzard. The fucking cops are douchebag, dumb fuck, idiot fucking pieces of shit. It's clear that the Dukes of Hazzards were the good guys. It's clear that the Dukes of Hazzards were the good guys. It's how the hillbillies should be. My God, just going to go around kissing a bunch of fascists. That's the kind of America you want? You ain't Dukes of Hazzard, motherfucker. You bunch of fascist, fucking boot-licking, non-questioning, sycophantic, suicidal lemmings running off a cliff.
Safety and security in any community, and I'm fighting to make sure that we have the resources to keep our communities safe and our police departments well-funded and well-trained.
So she has a lot of problems, right? She's a plutocrat oligarch, but she's also an opportunist. She's getting in trouble for insider trading, just like David Perdue. How come these rich oligarchs, insider trading? What the fuck does a farmer know about insider trading? Oh yeah, I can relate. I can relate to that. You get when you sell the corn, and then they tell you. Not saying they don't know what it is, but they're not on the stock market. So she says she's pro-wall, pro-Trump, like to a fucking insane degree. I bet even Trump's mother didn't love him that much. And she hates health care, so we're not going to get any universal health care during a pandemic. Who's going to vote against health care during a pandemic, Jimmy Dore? Kelly Loeffler is. Israel has been doing, oppression, occupation for quite some time. She does not believe that Israel is an apartheid state. Oh my God, she would have lived in, the ancient South and be like, oh, I don't see segregation here either. Go to South Africa. Oh no, this is a stupid. Israel's clearly an apartheid state, and they keep killing the Palestinians. They need to fucking stop. Kelly Loeffler is okay with the Israelis killing all the baby Jesuses in Bethlehem on Christmas. She don't give a fuck. She don't give a fuck how many baby Jesuses are going to get murdered in Bethlehem by Israel, and they get away with it too because of the United States government veto in the United Nations. They don't get in trouble. They're not condemned by the world body because America covers their ass. And just like when Obama got in office, they started killing people. They're killing people now. They're trying to show Joe Biden, you better back the fuck off. This is how we roll. This is what we do. It worked for Obama, and it'll probably work for Biden too. But Democrats are right-wing and wrong about a lot of fucking shit. So, yeah, they're wrong about Israel, too. When everybody, when there's unanimity, I don't know. Anyways, Kelly Loeffler is against Medicare for all. She's pro-wall, pro-Trump. She keeps having all these interviews with white supremacists, posing in pictures with KKK members. She could very well be a racist. She owns the WNBA, and she's what, the plantation master there? The WNBA should be owned by a black person, I would think. I don't know. I don't have the numbers, but I would assume that the WNBA has more black folks than white, so therefore the club should be owned by... Anyways.
Senator, thank you. Would you like to respond to...
Sure. If
about opening up the jails?
Well, listen. First of all, the land of the free is the mass incarceration capital of the world. We warehouse 25% of the world's prisoners, and people on both sides of the aisle know that our current criminal justice system needs reform.
He's absolutely right. She is so fucking far out of touch. Kelly Loeffler is a total psycho. It's incredible that Republicans would rather vote for a low-life total psychopath from Illinois. She's not even a Georgian. Kelly Loeffler isn't even a Georgian. She's a carpetbagger who, with an unelected Senate, she paid for that seat. How did she get to run Georgia? Just paid for it. She's rich. She's connected. So here you go. Here's a Senate seat. The fuck she know about real life? Georgia went blue in the national election, so people are saying the momentum is on, Reverend Raphael Warnock's side. Raphael Warnock the momentum is on his side. Georgia went blue. It's basically a super red state, but it didn't go for Donald Trump.
And we saw that this summer, a multiracial coalition of conscience pouring out into American streets after the tragic deaths of George Floyd and Breonna.
So here is.
And she says she is against racism and that racism has no place. But she welcomed the support of a QAnon conspiracy theorist. And she sat down with a white supremacist for an interview. I don't think she can explain that.
She tried to, and what else? Okay, so I just
Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and so many others.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, exactly. So it's incredible that Kelly Loeffler she's insider trading prostitute. She's a racketeer. She's an opportunist. She's an oligarchical plutocrat who's in our fucking government, who does everything against the working class, everything against any of the progressive values that we need to save this nation during a pandemic. She's not for universal basic income, instant runoff voting, and she is sure as hell ain't for no Medicare for all. So the Georgia went blue, but it's still a lot of red. She is, says Black Lives Matters is fascist. She hates Fidel Castro, which I could kind of see that. Jeremiah Wright, less so. And Karl Marx, not at all. You could just tell by her attacks who she is. Karl Marx is just a guy who wanted a better world. He was a writer. You hate a guy who wrote, it's like hating James Baldwin. Why would you hate James Baldwin? When he writes things I don't like. Fast forward, get on with your life. Karl Marx I think a bunch of his kids starved to death, and so he went to live in a world where kids weren't starving to death. That's why he wrote with a psychotic frenzy. Karl Marx was awesome. I wouldn't consider myself a Marxist because it's not like, I wonder what Marxist is thinking today. I'm going to behave. But I like him and respect him. And she's okay with killing all the baby Jesuses. She's against health care. She's for the wall, for Trump. Cradles his nuts. Loves the police way too fucking much. Fascist as fuck. Fascist through and through. This oligarchical plutocrat don't know shit about the working class. She's okay with killing all the baby Jesuses in Bethlehem on Christmas. And Israel's been doing this shit for quite some time. It's about fucking time they stop. But, since America's white supremacist has a government that's white supremacist, Israel thinks that they can get away with a white supremacist apartheid occupation. They count every single calorie that goes into Palestine. It's fucking sick, and it's bullshit, and it's not right. Just the good old boys.
And what did Kelly Loeffler do? She used her enormous privilege and power as a United States senator to pick a fight with the black women on her team who know what it's like to grow up in a community where you have to have two talks with your children, one about the birds and the bees, and the other about what happens if you're pulled over.
Wasn't there another NBA or NFL owner that was saying a bunch of racist shit, so you got a white, CEO and the rest of the club is all black, and then she says Black Lives Matter is fascist? Is there a specific chapter you want to talk about? Because which one's fascist? They never came into my house. They were kicked down they're not genociding Jewish people. They're not genociding baby Jesuses in Palestine. They're not doing the shit that Israel does or the empire does wantonly without any accountability whatsoever. The world survived his fucking psychoticness. I guess that's means that Joe Biden is going to expand the fucking empire. Jesus Christ. Yeah, she's uber regressive. We're going so far backwards with Kelly Loeffler. So, Georgia, don't vote for Kelly Loeffler. Do not vote for Kelly Loeffler. She is awful. Reverend Raphael Warnock isn't, perfect. He's made his mistakes, but Raphael Warnock will make America better. His policies, his ideas will make America better. So, yeah. Forced to vote. Peace.